Good morning, everyone. My name is Cassie Hopkins, and I help coordinate the webinars for Hausman Johnson Insurance and the Benefit Services Group. I would like to welcome you to today's webinar, The Profound Impact of Middle Managers on Office Culture, presented by Suzanne Templin. This webinar is interactive and it's going to feature a question and answer session. You can type a question in during the webinar and Suzanne will address it. After the webinar is over, there will be a short survey we are hoping you can fill out for us to give us feedback on the webinar and webinar topics you are interested in learning more about. This webinar will be recorded and will be available on the webinar archives section of our website. Each attendee will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording and the presentation slides. I would now like to introduce our speaker, Suzanne Templin. Suzanne joined Hausman Johnson Insurance in 2013 as an administrative associate and was promoted to office manager after a year. As the office manager, she does a little bit of everything around the office, but her true passion is leadership. From enhancing her own skills to teaching others, she finds the journey to becoming an excellent leader immensely gratifying. Suzanne is inspired to come to work each day because she truly believes in the services HJI provides. She feels a strong sense of ownership and a commitment to HJI's success because that success comes from protecting and supporting HJI's clients and the community. Suzanne holds a bachelor's degree from the Illinois in English and Gender and Women's Studies and a master's from DePaul University in English Language and Literature. Much of Suzanne's time is spent with her two dogs. When she's not chasing after the dogs, Suzanne enjoys going to the farmer's market on Saturday mornings and taking in the spring and summer sun at the Memorial Union Terrace and the Henry Villa Zoo. In the winter months, you'll find her reading under a pile of blankets or watching nature documentaries with her husband. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you, Cassie. So, like Cassie said, I really do enjoy the farmer's market. And I've been really sad this year because there was no big Dane County farmer's market at the square in Madison. And that is just one of the bazillion things that COVID has changed for us. And so, today's agenda is up on the screen for you. And while the agenda is up, I just want everybody who's listening to just stop, take a moment, breathe, and check in with yourself. I want to thank you for being here, your commitment to leadership during this really, really difficult, excruciatingly painful at times moment in our lives is astounding. It's incredible that there are so many people listening live and so many people who signed up who I acknowledge weren't able to join us live today. Thank you and thank yourselves for being here and for your unwavering commitment to being better for yourself, better for your organization, and better for your associates. So you've seen today's agenda. Let's move on. Cassie, thank you. So I want to just take a moment and recognize that, I'm coming from a place where, a year ago, Cassie and Rachel DeGrand, who's our head of marketing, they came to me and said, hey, would you like to do another webinar on leadership? And I was, of course, super excited because I love talking about this stuff. And now it's so vastly different, right? I think that most, if not all of you who are on this call are perhaps feeling burnt out. I know I am myself. We have our our executive vice president here, Craig, likes to say, you got to put your own oxygen mask on before you help anybody else. And so a lot of what we're going to be talking about here today is prefaced by recognizing that we as leaders have to be in a good place before we can hit any of the marks that we need to hit in terms of affecting our culture in a positive way. Many of you all of us have been affected, right? So whether it's just, okay, so I'm quarantining or I'm just working from home, but also, all of our parents who are dealing with either remote schooling or part-time days in class, part-time days at home, people who are worrying about childcare, masking yourself, masking your kids, the virus, maybe long-term health complications that we don't even know about yet, and perhaps even the death of loved ones. We have political unrest. We have racial tensions. We have the fight for social justice, and an alarming rise in mental illness, job loss, financial instability, not to mention all the personal struggles that many of us are facing in the midst of everything else. I want us to recognize that where we're coming from matters just as much as where we're going. I want everyone to just really take a moment and breathe. Just breathe for a minute while I talk to you. Dr. Fred Johnson, who is the founder and CEO of Initiative One, it's a leadership transformation program. A bunch of us leaders and executives here at Houseman Johnson went through it. And so I still follow him and his blogs and his webinars that he gives. He has found that most of the leaders that he's worked with are dealing with burnout. True leaders are givers, and you have people who are coming to you all the time to tap your knowledge and your expertise. And if you keep giving and giving of yourself without restoring your well, right before you completely run dry, what you'll be pumping out are the dregs, the toxins, the yucky stuff that accumulates at the bottom of the well. That's also known as burnout. And like I said, add on top of that, the world that we're living in, where we've got anger, fear, the anxiety of the unknown coming from every direction. And that adds to the sense of hopelessness that leaders may be feeling right now. And if you're going to be an effective leader, you have to separate yourself from that noise. You have to deliberately choose what you spend your energy on if you're going to be able to take care of yourself enough to have your well full enough to give to others what they need. I say all that to preface what we're actually going to be talking about, which is how to effectively have a positive influence on your culture. So, Cassie, let's move on to the next slide. Let's get into it here. So, if you're leading right now, you obviously know that your company culture matters. The age-old saying that cash is king is probably a thing of the past, at least for our younger generation of workers. Culture is now taking the reins. LinkedIn did a workplace culture report, and 86% of millennials said that they would consider taking a pay cut to accept a position at a company that has a mission and values that aligns with their own. 9 out of 10 young professionals who claim this vastly outshadow the 9% or less than 1 in 10 of baby boomers who would do the same. Glassdoor also found the same trend in younger generations. They did a survey in which they found that 65% of millennials value company culture more than a high income, and 73% of Glassdoor respondents wouldn't even apply for a position at a company unless its values aligned with their own. Culture isn't just affecting recruiting, it's also affecting retention for companies. According to the Glassdoor survey, 74% of U.S. workers would leave their current employer if their current company's culture began to deteriorate. And while pay can help alleviate minor concerns an employee may have, it's no longer strong enough to cure issues in recruiting and retention. Now, a clarifying point here is this doesn't mean that you don't have to pay your employees a fair and competitive wage just because you have an annual company picnic that everybody enjoys attending. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. I am suffering from a little bit of a cold and allergy, so if I sniffle or cough a little bit, I do apologize. I should have said that ahead of time. So what we're talking about here is you still have to pay your employees a fair and equitable wage. What we are talking about here is once you pay them fairly for their work, paying them more money isn't going to necessarily keep your retention levels up if there are big problems with your company culture. So fix your company culture before you start just doling out big hunks of cash. From ethical decisions to work-life balance to humanitarian efforts, there are several factors that contribute to a company's culture. And each set of values is unique to every organization. And in a lot of ways, there's no specific right or wrong way of developing culture. If you look at the current trends of behaviors that contribute to a strong culture that has the power to recruit and retain their talent, there are specific factors that an organization should be aware of from a foundational perspective. And we're going to explore more of that on our next slide. Thanks, Kathy. So a supportive, positive culture encourages engagement in employees, and employees who are engaged create a positive and supportive culture. And we know that now, more than ever, companies cannot afford to lose their employees. There was a study done by Employee Benefit News, and they found that the average cost of losing an employee is 33% of their annual salary. So retention needs to remain a major focus. One of the key measures to retaining workers is building employee engagement. For businesses that furloughed workers amidst temporary closures or had to lay off employees due to economic hardships, rebuilding engagement is paramount to ramping up business efforts. What can you do as a middle manager to build your employees' engagement? Job flexibility, relationship building, your company's values, opportunities for professional development, and showing empathy are foundational factors that impact your culture. According to a 2019 Global Talent Trends report, 72% of professionals say workplace flexibility, allowing employees to work when and where they choose, is extremely important for the future of recruitment. Moreover, since 2016, there has been a 78% increase in job posts highlighting the phrase workplace flexibility. In terms of organizational relationship building, one of the strongest factors in culture that professionals look for is a sense of belonging. According to LinkedIn, the top factor, 46%, that would cause an employee to stay at their current employer is having people at work that they can be themselves around. Recruiting and retaining talented employees is imperative to maintaining a competitive advantage in an organization. One strong behavioral sense woven into top cultures is the sense of pride and respect one has for their company, as well as their role within the organization. LinkedIn has found that 87% of workers say having pride in their organization matters. What the company stands for matters as well, a top factor being whether or not the company has a positive impact on society. When we enhance development plans, I'm sorry, my apologies, guys, I misread. So many of us may have had to put some professional development plans on hold during these past few months. It's still very important, though, to pour energy back into your workforce. Employees want to work for a company that invests in their future. And the best way to do this is through education, cross-training, or tuition subsidies, to name a few. According to a study, most employees who were willing to quit their job cited a lack of career opportunity, with 26% citing lack of growth opportunities. If your business doesn't have the capital to invest in development now, what you do have is time and talent. An inexpensive way to utilize these tools is through mentoring and cross-training among employees. These are all great ways to engage your workforce and build excitement around their roles. And finally, you need to engage your employees through empathy. If your business was forced to temporarily close or your workforce was required to work remotely during these past few months, you're probably tasked with building re-entry plans to safely bring your team back to the workplace. This will be a great time, full of opportunities to increase production, but it also may be a difficult time for your employees. Many of them have developed new habits by adapting to the work-from-home environment and may have difficulty adjusting to the new normal. This can cause employee disengagement and emotional detachment. Because of this, empathetic leadership will be a major factor this year. 93% of employees would stay with an empathetic employer, while 82% would leave their position to work for a more empathetic company. Consider adopting a partial remote schedule so employees can easily adjust, or offer new projects between teams to help create newness and excitement in the workplace. By understanding their needs and helping them through the transition, you will be able to not only build trust and engagement, but loyalty as well. Now let's really get into the nitty-gritty here. Let's look at job flexibility and see what we can do as leaders. In 2009, a Harvard Business School professor conducted a survey where she asked, would you rather have $10,000 more pay or more flexibility? Now, remember, that was 11 years ago, and our country was still in the midst of a recession at the time. So you would think that people would have wanted more pay. And you might think that there would be a generational difference, that boomers might want the money and millennials would want the flexibility. The survey results were in fact a surprise. Across all generations, 56% of people wanted the flexibility over a pay increase. I don't think it's much of a stretch to guess that the number would be even higher if we surveyed today. Now, there are naysayers against flexibility, and I have found that the naysayers against flexibility don't trust their employees and are suspicious that their people will take advantage of the situation and work very little while they're off doing non-work related activities. Some of those activities might be, they're going to go hang out at the beach or take in a movie, or more likely just run errands and be generally unavailable on the clock. Now, does that really happen, though? What are you finding as leaders right now while your teams are working remotely? SHRM, which is the Society of Human Resource Management, researched the impact of flexibility and found that 86% of companies surveyed reported improved productivity. 77% saw a rise in employee morale because most of them were able to better balance the demands of work and family. Not to mention the positive impact that providing flexibility has on your company's reputation. So, why is flexibility so important? For one, we live and work in a social and mobile environment. Work is no longer a function of place. We're available 24/7. We answer texts in 3 minutes or less, and on average, check our smartphones 30 times an hour to see what's going on. You don't turn off your mobile device at 5 o'clock. People want to answer messages as they come in rather than let them stack up as emails. With work being anytime, anywhere, with anyone, offering flexibility makes a great deal of business sense. Secondly, people who use their mobile devices for work on average contribute 240 times more hours of discretionary effort. Being able to work flexibly builds commitment and requires that organizations shift from measuring time to measuring results. And another thing, with recruiting talent being more challenging than ever, offering flexibility on how people can work can enhance your reputation and your employer brand. It can make you more competitive in the war for talent. It can help you improve retention as well. I was recently talking to a colleague who had gone from a traditional work situation to set office hours to one of self-management and flexibility. He manages client commitments and deliverables, and he is incredibly happy in this work situation, reporting that he is more productive and would turn down opportunities that paid more money to stay in a role with a great deal of flexibility. I suspect his point of view is shared by the majority of workers. And finally, people live social, mobile lives, and you can't just turn that off. We have integrated lives, and the way we work needs to respond to shifts in how and when we work. If you do not have a social or mobile strategy, if you do not have a technology solution that supports flexibility, work on your game plan, build your strategy, make the business case. There are many things to consider when moving to flexible work. For example, perhaps not all jobs can have the same level of flexibility. You need to look at how your organization can offer flexible ways of working. Often, the greatest area of change needs to happen with line managers. You need to consider how to develop your managers to lead teams with new ways of working. Trust is key. If you are an organization where there is a culture of face time being the measure of productivity, flexibility will be a culture shift. And you will need to have a communication and development strategy to support the new direction. You will need to shift from a culture of see and be seen to one of high accountability and results. In order for flexibility to work for your company, rules and expectations need to be established and communicated, and leaders need to check in with the employees regularly. That brings us to relationship building. As I mentioned before, one of the strongest factors in culture that professionals look for is a sense of belonging. And people feel like they belong when they have a trusting relationship with the coworkers and their manager. So as a leader, you can encourage better relationships amongst your team members by strengthening your leadership skills. When Gallup did research on this subject, they found that the majority of managers aren't actually fit for the position. Only 10% of the population naturally develops their required managerial skills, while other professionals are teachable but not innately talented. However, businesses choose suitable managerial candidates in a mere 18% of cases. So Gallup's research indicates that many managers are not receiving the necessary job training to perform well in their new positions. Thankfully, this is an issue that aspiring managers can easily solve by furthering their education, even while you're still employed. Working adults can enroll in an online Master of Business Administration program, which can give you an analytic, decision-making, and leadership skills vital for effective management. But if an MBA isn't quite what you're looking for, and let me tell you, it wouldn't be what I would be looking for, there are plenty of other options. Here in Wisconsin, the University of Wisconsin's Continuing Studies program offers a wide range of excellent classes for leaders looking to hone their skills and expand their toolbox without taking out of school alone. Just a few of their class topics include strategic planning, creating a culture of collaboration, racial equity, project management, resilience and stress management, facilitating effective meetings, conflict transformation, and many, many more. If you're outside of Wisconsin, I'm sure that many of your local universities and colleges would have similar type of continuing studies classes. Given the statistics, most businesses recognize the need to start an employee engagement initiative. However, most of these programs are ineffective or at least not as well designed as they could be. They typically rely on surveys to understand how team members feel and then design activities or perks to increase employee happiness. These approaches can be helpful, but they don't address the most significant component of low engagement, which is poor leadership. An ineffective manager can cause more damage than wellness initiatives like office yoga mats and flexible work from home policies can restore. What businesses must do is include employee feedback and managerial training as part of their new engagement strategies. Specifically, managers must solicit their teams for feedback on how to be better leaders, and those responses should be specially addressed in training so employees know that they are being heard and valued. For example, if employees say they often lack clear direction, managers should receive training on how to effectively communicate assignments and expectations. In addition to proper leadership and compelling engagement programs, managers can further their relationships with their teams by providing positive feedback. People who receive consistent, helpful feedback that reinforces positive behaviors generally outperform those who do not. It's best if this feedback is delivered as quickly as possible, as one study published in the Journal of Clinical Infectious Diseases showed that timeliness strongly encourages high performance. To conduct the studies, researchers monitored the hand washing habits of staff at an intensive care unit over the course of 2 years, hoping to discover what best motivated employees to practice proper hygiene. They found that immediate positive feedback displayed on an electronic board was a better motivator than cautioning the employees on the dangers of spreading disease, despite the study group's medical background. Essentially, the instant positive feedback triggered a reward signal in the brain, making hospital staff more likely to repeat the action that caused it in order to receive that pleasure again. This same idea works in the office. To encourage employees to reach their full potential or even to make small changes in their work habits, managers should recognize specific achievements as they happen. Not only can this approach lead to better performance, but it also makes teams feel appreciated. Aside from immediate positive reinforcement, managers must also hold structured performance reviews on a regular basis to build stronger relationships with their employees. Doing so provides an opportunity to delve deeper into specific assignments or issues concerning the employee. Like engagement programs, performance reviews are widely but not effectively used. Many businesses still rely on annual evaluations only, forcing managers to review a year's worth of goals and achievements in a single setting. Unfortunately, due to the scope of time involved, it's hard for managers to review their employees on relevant criteria. Performance at the beginning of the year will be judged based on metrics from the end and vice versa. In addition, managers are more likely to forget old occurrences that are critical to the employee's review. This can make employees feel as if their work isn't valued, leading to low engagement. Increasing the frequency of these evaluations helps managers more accurately describe a person's performance. They're able to remain up to date on certain assignments and correct mistakes before they're repeated throughout the year. The feedback they provide is relevant and timely, which helps employees improve. This more consistent feedback can also improve the relationship between the manager and the employee, and thereby increase the employee engagement. Managers must also remember to focus on a person's achievements, not just failures, to help their teams perform better. This again makes employees feel respected and motivates them at work. Even with quality evaluations, team members often feel that their managers lack a true sense of what happens in the office day to day. This may well be true. Because of their position, managers know what their teams accomplish as a unit, but may be removed from smaller achievements and struggles. So it's harder for them to recognize the minor but consequential issues their teams face. Problems like inefficient software and excessive bureaucracy seem like small details, but those details can build up and make it harder for teams to perform efficiently. To better understand these issues, managers should spend anywhere from a few hours to an entire day performing the function of one of their employees. Doing so increases their understanding of the jobs the employees perform and the tools and systems available. With this information, managers can better delegate assignments and set reasonable expectations and deadlines, which can help employees feel like their concerns are being taken seriously and addressed, leading, again, to higher motivation and engagement. Now let's talk about aligning values. Do you think organizational values are just pretty ideas you share on a business's website or a poster in your office wall? Well, if you're on this webinar, I'm guessing that you know that that's not true. Your company values help you define who you are as an organization, to your staff, to the people investing in your business, and even to yourself. They shape your culture and act as a North Star to guide your company decisions. What's more, they're also vital to workplace happiness. A 2015 industry ranking report found that workers in construction and facility services averaged the highest happiness scores out of all the industries. They ranked higher than industries varying from technology and software to media and entertainment. Employees in construction and facility services gave high responses in a number of areas, but let's take a look at what they're saying about their company values. Quote, "One of the most satisfying things about working here is the close alignment of the company values to my own. That my peers overwhelmingly share the same values is icing on the cake." End quote. Here's another. "I share the values of the company in my personal life. That is one of the things that make it very easy to love working here." The message is clear. While lots of factors make employees happy, sharing individual and company values makes everything even better. It boosts their satisfaction with both the company and their coworkers. On the other hand, if an employee is already feeling dissatisfaction at work, a clash of values can make things worse. Here are some of the responses from the same survey from employees in industries that average the lowest happiness scores. Here we go. "I value quality and work ethic where it seems all that matters here is the hours." And another, "The values of the organization are aligned with complacency. I'd like this place to stand for something more than average day-to-day busy work." And finally, one more. "I think that the company's values are at times confused. The practice doesn't always match what is preached. A lot is said about integrity, decency, professionalism, but this is not always visible in day-to-day working practice." These employees have their personal values, and they want to see their companies match them, or at least not contradict them. For example, in the first quote, the problem isn't just that the fact that the company demands a lot of hours, it's how this undermines the employee's values. Companies cannot ignore the impact that values have on their workplace experience. A business practice that is a small problem for an employee can get much bigger if the employee and company fundamentally disagree on what their guiding motivation should be. One of the reasons it's so important for your employees to align with your company has to do with brain chemistry. According to research by a Stanford neuroscientist, a Stanford neuroscientist found that it's important for people to share values with the rest of their social group. In his research, people who were told that their opinions were the same as the rest of the group experienced a reward response in their brains. On the other hand, those who disagreed with the group showed negative activity in the brain region for reward, and later they made an effort to be more like the group and to establish a social connection. What the opinion is doesn't matter. It's knowing that yours agrees with others. For example, we generally think of money as a reward. But in one experience, people were put in a situation where getting money would hurt their social connections, and the brain's reward response to money went down. Since employees spend at least half or more of their waking hours at work, the workforce is one of the most important social groups a person has. Knowing that they are in harmony with their team feeds the reward response in the brain. It's no wonder that employees are happy when their individual values are aligned with the company. So what does this mean for leaders? Is it the employee's responsibility to find a company they're compatible with, or should the company take an active role? It's in your best interest to build a team whose values match your organization. Here's one reason why, and I quote, "The company values being aligned with mine made it an easy transition from my previous employer to here. No worry to fit in or learn how to think, just learn my job responsibilities." This respondent lays out the benefits that they and their company gained by having shared values: a shorter onboarding process, compatibility with coworkers, no distractions from the employee getting their job done. These effects go beyond an individual worker. They affect team productivity. They could mean the difference between a new hire getting up to speed in 1 month instead of 2. Could they even prevent you from losing talent? There's one response from an employee that makes us think that the answer might be yes. Quote, "I share the values of the company in my personal life. That is one of the things that make it very easy to love working here." Unfortunately, a 2013 employee engagement survey showed that less than half of employees actually know their company's values. So company leaders have their employees work cut out for them. Not only do they need to make your organizational values clear to your workforce, you also have to build a workforce that fits with those values. Determine the guiding principles for your company, whether it's top-notch customer service, relentless innovation, or something else. Hire a team who will enact those values. This is just as vital as making sure a candidate has the right skills listed on their resume. Company values are no empty gesture. Aligning your employees' priorities with those of the organization as a whole results in rewards for both you and your workforce. Having a higher goal in mind means they're more than a cog in the machine, and it's that kind of investment that will get them engaged and ready to go the extra mile at work. Now let's talk about professional development. All employees dream of the ideal workforce. Employees committed to the organizational goals, personnel who works to improve their company's products, staff that gets excited about the successes and achievements of the business, teams that uphold the culture of the workplace and add value to the workplace culture. Simply put, employers desire employees who are engaged, loyal, and committed. And employees will be so only if their employers invest in them. We need to offer educational and training opportunities. Long story short, millennials are eager to educate themselves. They don't really switch off their learning mode. Any formal training that will increase their competency and help them excel at work will be welcomed by them. Employers can begin by passing on all information and details pertaining to best practices. Encourage your employees to read some online articles on a regular basis to stay updated. Give them access to books, seminars, and e-learning programs, especially massive open online courses as they are, or MOOCs, which I've never heard of, but according to this article, they exist, is massive open online courses that they are popular amongst the youth. A wide range of courses are available that will benefit businesses and employees alike. By encouraging the employees to enroll for programs that are relevant to their current roles and also help in their career going forward, the employers gain in the form of updated employees, while the employees learn new skills and stay relevant. To improve the overall efficiency of the organization, cross-departmental and cross-functional training is a must. While this does not really lead to people considering career shifts, it definitely lets each employee know how significant their own as well as others' work or job is in the overall running of the business. The training does not always have to be technical. In fact, these days, soft skills are considered more vital than anything else. Employers are realizing how important emotional intelligence is at work. In fact, the best leaders are those who are self-aware, motivated, disciplined, empathetic, and possess high levels of social skills. Those are nothing but soft skills. Other skills that can be useful to employees, not just in the professional environment, but also beyond that, are communication skills, exhibiting the right body language, ability to interpret other people's facial expressions and body language and practicing nonviolent communication. Training in ways to improve communication will help the team on the whole and keep them together. Provide your employees with resources that will empower them to enhance their professional skills. Invest in webinars, software tools, and subscriptions. Invite guest lecturers or industry experts to interact with them and speak with them. Encourage the employees to undertake research in their areas of expertise. Help them build a professional network. We also need to be mentoring our employees. Allow your employees to connect with their seniors professionally as well as personally. This allows the juniors to learn from the seniors and gain inspiration. Create an effective mentorship program which helps employees with similar responsibilities and jobs to connect and learn from each other. Such programs help establish enduring professional connections and allow the employees to value networking. These mentorship programs can last for a few months or even a year. These are especially helpful today when managers lack the time or to share or pass on their knowledge and skills to those below them. A formal program will make them take time out to mentor and coach others. If you don't want to make a mentorship program formal, you can simply ask their leaders and managers to indulge in regular conversations with employees, discussions that will help the employees introspect and go over their own accomplishments and realize their potential. Start by ensuring that your employees enjoy emotional balance. Ask them questions about their work, whether they're satisfied, whether they are able to handle the responsibilities given to them, and so on. Listen to your employees, lend them support, and help them out of difficult emotional situations. Teach your employees about personal finance and relationships. Make them realize how important it is to save and secure their future. Teach them about wellness and how they can achieve the same at work and at home. Encourage them to pursue their hobbies and learn new things. Provide gym memberships and urge them to exercise. Offer them training in yoga and meditation and drive home the significance of physical fitness. Professional development of employees is all about offering them the tools required to perform their jobs efficiently and training them such that they are equipped to surge ahead in their careers. By facilitating their professional development, organizations are only letting the employees know how much they care about them. The employees pay back with their loyalty, productivity, and complete engagement that helps the organization grow. Now, finally, let's move on to empathy. Empathetic leadership means having the ability to understand the needs of others and being aware of their feelings and thoughts. Unfortunately, it has long been a soft skill that's overlooked as a performance indicator. Research has found, however, that today's successful leaders must be more person-focused and able to work well with people from varying teams, departments, countries, cultures, and backgrounds. To determine if empathy influences a manager's job performance, data has been analyzed from 6,730 managers in 38 countries. And what they found was that empathy in the workplace is positively related to job performance. Managers who practice empathetic leadership toward direct reports are viewed as better performers in their job by their bosses. The findings were consistent across the sample. Those managers who were rated as empathetic by subordinates were also rated as high performing by their own boss. The ability to be compassionate and connect with others is critical to our lives, both personally and professionally. Demonstrating empathy, a key part of emotional intelligence and leadership effectiveness, also improves human interactions in general and can lead to more effective communication and positive outcomes in both work and home settings. Empathy is the ability to perceive and relate to the thoughts, emotions, or experience of others. Those with high levels of empathy are skilled at understanding a situation from another person's perspective and reacting with compassion. In the workplace, this simply means that your people are able to establish true empathetic connections with one another that enhance relationships and performance. It's important to remember the difference between sympathy and empathy, as the two are often confused. Sympathy is typically defined by feelings of pity for another person without really understanding what it's like to be in their situation. Empathy, on the other hand, refers to the capacity or ability to imagine oneself in the situation of another, experiencing the emotions, ideas, or opinions of that person. So some of the ways that we can demonstrate empathy are to watch for signs of overwork in others. Work burnout is a real problem and comes at a greater risk during times of intense stress or pressure, such as our current COVID-19 crisis. Many people are stressed, putting in more hours than ever before, and finding it difficult to separate work and home. Managers who are skilled at empathetic leadership are able to recognize signs of overwork in others before burnout becomes an issue that results in disengagement or turnover. This might mean taking a few extra minutes each week to check in with team members and gauge how they're handling their current workload and helping them recover from overwork. Another way we can demonstrate empathy is to show sincere interest in the needs, hopes, and dreams of our people. Part of leading with empathy involves working to understand the unique needs and goals of each team member and how to best match work assignments to contribute to both performance and employee satisfaction. Team members who see that their manager recognizes them in this way are more engaged and willing to go the extra mile. We can demonstrate willingness to help an employee with personal problems. Lines between work and personal life are becoming increasingly blurred, especially during the current crisis. Empathetic managers understand that their team members are dynamic individuals who are shouldering personal problems while having to maintain their professional responsibilities. They recognize that it's part of the role to keep and support those team members while they need it most. Keeping open lines of communication and encouraging transparency is a good way to foster psychological safety and help team members feel comfortable sharing when it's necessary. And finally, we can show compassion when other people disclose a personal loss. Real connections and friendships at work matter, and empathetic leadership is a tool that managers can use to establish bonds with those they're privileged to lead. We've all been through personal loss, so even if we can't relate to their specific loss, we can act empathetically and let them know that they're supported. Now, I know we're running short of time, so I want to hit this last slide here about how executives can support their middle management. So companies are surprisingly ineffective at appointing managers. This is a huge predicament, as strong managers are integral to running a business. Yet most are promoted to the position simply based on tenure, not on their leadership capabilities. Executives and human resources teams need to better recognize what traits are necessary in a good manager and avoid hiring or promoting people based on only a certain number of years of experience. Additionally, creating effective engagement programs requires support in the form of both time and money. A single half-hour workshop may not be enough to solve the communication problem, but a roundtable discussion or series of presentations might. Similarly, free muffins every morning might not motivate employees as much as a full day of team building. The right support depends on the needs and resources of each individual organization. Also, a culture of learning starts at the top. Companies can't simply talk about the importance of education. They must actively support growth and development of all employees at all levels, beginning with their managers. According to the Gallup report that I mentioned in the previous slide, employees are 59% more likely to be engaged if they are supervised by highly engaged managers. Managers who understand what is at stake and are fully invested in the culture of learning can help support engagement in a variety of ways. Learning matters. One highly impactful driver of employee engagement is aligning individual and corporate goals. Businesses can achieve this by actively equipping employees to meet key performance metrics, learn new skills to better perform their jobs, or access opportunities for higher education that position them for advancement. Many organizations already encourage employees to set performance or development goals, but too few actually provide the resources and support to achieve them. Such support includes dedicated time to work on goals, regularly checking in on the progress, and assigning projects and tasks that reinforce the learning. I have more to say about that, but I want to skip ahead to empathy because I realize we're getting really close to time. I apologize. I have so much to say about this stuff. I get really excited. So one of the ways that organizations can encourage empathy in the workplace is to talk about empathy. Fortunately, empathy is not a fixed trait. It can be learned. So let your managers know that empathy matters. Many managers consider task-orienting skills, such as monitoring and planning, to be more important to controlling the performance of their team members. But research shows that understanding, caring, and developing others is just as important, if not more important, particularly in today's workforce. Explain that giving time and attention to others fosters empathy, which in turn enhances your performance and improves your perceived effectiveness. You need to teach listening skills. To understand others and sense what they're feeling, managers must be good listeners, skilled in active listening techniques, who let others know that they're being heard and express understanding of concerns and problems. When a manager is a good listener, people feel respected and trust can grow. Encourage genuine perspective taking. Your managers should consistently put themselves in the other person's place. For managers, this includes taking into account the personal experience or perspective of their employees. It can also be applied to solving problems, managing conflict, or driving innovation. To lead in our changing world, understand the role social identity plays for you and others. And finally, cultivate compassion. Support your managers who care about how someone else feels or consider the effects that business decisions have on employees, customers, and communities. Go beyond the standard issue value statements and allow time for compassionate reflection and response. As managers hone their empathetic leadership skills, they improve their leadership effectiveness and increase their chances of being successful in their job. Empathetic leaders are assets to organizations in part because they are able to effectively build and maintain relationships, which is a critical part of leading organizations anywhere in the world. So that brings me to the end of what I wanted to say today. I know I did not leave a lot of time for questions. I'm wondering if we did get any questions, or I'll turn it back over to Cassie and see what she has to say here.
Yes, thank you so much, Suzanne, for that wonderful presentation. I know I found it super informative, and we certainly did get in quite a lot of questions. So what I think we're going to do, since we are low on time, is I'm going to choose just a couple of the questions that have come in, and Suzanne is going to reach out to you guys who have sent in some kind of a chain of questions, and we can address those with you individually. So if you would like to send in a question right now, you can type it in to the question part of your dashboard on GoToWebinar. You can also put it in the chat feature if that's easier for you, and I'll just get started. So the first question we have is, what have you found works best for you to build and maintain relationships while working remotely?
Oh, great question. I have been both in the office and working remotely throughout this, and I have found that just a brief, I've had to ask my team, what's your preference? Do you guys want to be on a call? Do you want me to reach out via email? Would you prefer a Zoom? And resoundingly in my team, they're exhausted from all the screen time. And so we do little phone check-ins. We do at least one a week, sometimes more than that. So we'll do a phone check-in, and then I also just check in via email. So what we do, I do an email check-in on Monday, and then I do a Friday end of week. How was your week? What do you got going on this weekend? That kind of thing. So it's a two-prong, and really it's based on what my team prefers, because a lot of people are fatigued from all of the webinars and all of the Zoom meetings and just all the screen time and no face-to-face time. But I hope that answers your question. And if it doesn't, please do type it into the chat, and I will clarify better. I tend to communicate better via email anyway, so I'll have more time to think about your question and really answer it in depth if that didn't answer your question. Kathy, what else?
So the next question, it kind of refers back to that first slide with a lot of those foundational factors before we got into them. This person is, they're being a little vulnerable, saying they can't do all of those factors. So they're saying, what factor should they focus on if they have to just divvy them up and choose one?
Empathy. Empathy. If you can't do all of those things, which, oh my God, who can? I would say, first, I should back up. Do the one that's the low-hanging fruit, okay? So do the one that is easiest for you to do, whether that's you as a leader, you as an executive, you as the president of a small company, whatever that is, do that, okay? But if you want my honest opinion, it's to be empathetic. It's to listen and to show your people that you genuinely care about them as human beings who are going through a really difficult time. And guess what? You are too. And so we can connect on that level, right? Like everybody is struggling. And if you're not struggling, I would like you to reach out to me and tell me what you're doing because I would like to know what voodoo magic you have going on in your life that you're thriving. And I hope that there are people who are thriving. But I would say that empathy is the number one most important thing for leaders and for executives to be supporting in their leaders as well.
Thank you. So we have 1 minute remaining. So I just want to remind everyone on the screen, there are the HRCI credits and the SHRM credits. This is a certified webinar, so you can use this to gain your CE credits. And I'm going to turn the slide over to Suzanne's contact information so that you can write that down or jot that down, or you'll get a recording of the slides as well that will have this slide in there so that you can have that information. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your morning to prioritize one of our webinars and join live. We really appreciate the people who show up to this. So thank you for attending, and we'd love for you to fill out that short survey, as your feedback is very important to us. And we have another webinar coming up on November 18th, which is Your Fleet, one of your biggest exposures. And if you'd like to join us for that, we'd love to have you. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your morning.